Grappling with the petrol price hike. That's what a lot of Nigerians are doing right now. Well, this morning we've got Mr. Akamadu here with us. He is the President, Center for Ethical Rebirth among Nigerian Youths. Sireni, good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Well, last week, nightmarish, literally, with the queues all over the place. Well, not that it's not the same now in terms of what people have to deal with. Still trying to take that in for a lot of people, how they need to adjust to that pump price. But of course, there's usually several explanations on the part of government and then several authorities. But the people, I'm not sure if or how those words have settled with the people, because for them, they look at the price, the pump, whatever anybody says affects, they're just keeping their focus on that pump price. So for you, take us through your own impressions as to how all of this is playing out from what you've seen.
Firstly, my heart goes out to the people of Nigeria. Of course, that includes my humble self, because we've been traumatized for too long a time. We've been shortchanged over time. The economic hardship that we face today is largely man-made on account of bad governance we've had over the years. That said, I also would want to note that, like we say in our local parlance, a hungry man is an angry man. So that explains in large parts why all the explaining that the government has been doing hasn't been sitting well with the people, because they are hungry in the first instance. And being hungry, they are not in the right frame of mind to even entertain any explaining that the government is willing to offer. That said, but again, we must be realistic at this point. Nigeria has come to a moment where we have to tell ourselves the truth. It is populist and it is simplistic, in my view, for some of us to be shouting, "Oh, reverse the pump price of fuel, reverse the pump price of fuel." My understanding is that the cost price of a liter of refined PMS is in the region of 830 naira. If it is in the region of 830 naira, that is before it's been trucked to the filling stations. I don't see how that makes logical sense for any business person to sell at 600. Someone must be at the brunt somehow. But again,
someone being Nigerians?
Well, someone must be at the brunt. If it is government, if you say, okay, government should continue to pay the subsidy, we also, with the people, also be at the brunt, directly or indirectly. So it's not even a matter of saying government should find a way of returning it to 600. If they return it to 600, the people of Nigeria will still suffer. The people of Nigeria will still pay one way or another.
Let's try and understand that dynamic there. I don't want us to move from that topic. Because for many Nigerians, subsidy is still being paid. If you look at the landing cost and what it was that was coming out at the petrol stations, we knew some money is going somewhere. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up, But then, of course, we keep hearing that subsidy has been removed. Now, walk us through that. With everything that's going on right now, for many Nigerians, if you talk to them on the street, they'll tell you, I don't even care about the corrupt subsidy regime anymore. Just bring back the subsidy. I want to go back to be able to live my life and be able to buy food and be able to live properly. Talk us through that dynamic.
But of course, I understand the pain of the average Nigerian, because I happen to be one of them. But the truth of the matter is this. We must tell ourselves the truth at this point as a people. Payment of subsidy will not take us to where we want to be as a people. Don't forget, the whole essence of deregulating the downstream sector is for us to achieve affordability and availability. Now, if we say, okay, federal government should return to 600 naira per liter, and then we have affordability, how about the availability part of it? Have you forgotten that even when it was 600 naira some days back, you could say there were long queues. People were buying black market at 1,100, 1,100, 1,200. We need to strike a balance. We need to really look ourselves in the face and tell ourselves the truth. It's either we take this hard decision at this moment and overcome all of these problems, or we remain where we are. But again,
all of these challenges.
Again, federal government, of course, has a whole lot to do in terms of trust deficit that we suffer in this country. The people don't believe in federal government. When federal government speaks, they don't. Nigerians, because of our years of being taken for granted and all of that, Nigerians don't take federal government seriously. There needs to be some exhaustive forensic audit of what's happening in NNPCL, for instance. We need satisfactory explanation of what is happening in the Niger Delta region. Why are they stealing our oil? Who are these people stealing our oil?
So here's the thing.
Are we meeting our OPEC quota? If the answer is no, why?
It is in this lifetime for a lot of people when late President Yaradua reduced the pump price upon assumption of office. And that stayed for, I think, 3 years until, unfortunately, he died. So all of those circumstances were still there at the time. So if he was able to do that, isn't it understandable why several Nigerians think, look, it is the ill-advised policies of government that put us where we are today?
Well, I think if you compare Yaradua's time to this present time, it wouldn't be fair at all. Why? Because things have since gone south for Nigeria. Nigeria's economy...
Things have always gone south. From the get-go. The exchange of the dollar.
What I'm saying...
From the get-go to now.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Always gone up.
We had COQs
yes.
long before Yaradua came into power.
Yes.
So the reality that we have on ground right now, yes, bad as it is, you know, and I agree, yes, we may not be able to really compare our spending power now to how it was then, but the truth is, Nigerians at this point in time need some kind of solution. We're hearing from all kinds of people. We're hearing from economists, we're hearing from experts in the field saying, look, good as these policies may be, they might not work, considering the indices on ground. If you have poor transportation systems in place, if you remove the subsidy on petrol, you're basically punishing your people because that cost will go to them and cost of transportation will rise. And when that happens, everything else will happen. There's no kind of palliative you're going to give that will make the people better. So what should be done in your view?
What I think is that the federal government should be a lot more transparent in its dealings with the people of Nigeria because they really need the trust of the people. They need the confidence of the people before they can really flourish with their policies, because if there is no public buy-in, there will always be a problem. Now, what I think is that federal government should be a lot more consultative. They should lay the cards bare. Critical stakeholders will have to make input. They don't have to dump policies on us. Before they decide on things like this, like I said, we need labor leaders, we need economists, and I also think, given where we find ourselves as a people at the moment, federal government should begin to think of throwing its doors open so that it can begin to harness the abundant potentials of people with the requisite expertise who are not necessarily members of the ruling party, so that they can also make input at the moment, because it's obvious that where we find ourselves economically is really taking a toll on the average Nigerian, and we need all hands to be on deck. Please, let me also note that at this point, we really need to wear our badges of statesmanship. That's what I think.
How do you mean?
Oh, well, where we find ourselves is such that we shouldn't be playing too much of politics with the present situation we find ourselves in. Because we are talking about the average Nigerian who is helpless and helpless.
Yeah, what's politics exactly?
Oh, no, of course you would understand that. Of course, no matter how you look at it, there are still people who are not friends of the government, who doesn't like the face of the present government, who would want to take advantage of all of this situation. I am saying that rather than mounting unnecessary or avoidable opposition on the government, the right thing should be every Nigerian to now see that there is a need for us to save the ship of state from.
The thing about that part is this. Yes. When you say people playing politics, look, I think it's a Yoruba proverb that says, the person that they want to burn, you don't go pour petrol on your body. So the thing now is, if government says people are playing politics, have you put any good policies in place there to counter them? Your policies will speak for the people.
That can be
so let them play politics they want. They play your own with your policies. Let it impact directly with the people. So the thing about that is why I say, look, people are stuck on saying they will compare. Because it's about, is the same government, is the same Nigeria that when the late President Yadda was there, he took policies that directly impacted the lives of the people across board. So on that principle, on that basis, that's why people say, what policies have you put in place to perhaps have the same, if not a better effect on the people? They keep talking about hard decisions, hard decisions. Which one have they sacrificed?
Of course.
The government themselves. What have they done?
Of course, I understand. And of course, I have admitted here that the government has to do a lot more. Because what the government has done so far hasn't yielded the result that we all desire. And because it hasn't yielded the result that we all desire, that's why I'm calling for a more expanded economic team that would include human resources that could bring fresh ideas, since these ones are not giving us what we need or what we desire as a people. So government has to redouble its effort, but the people also would, I think, will have to show understanding, because this is a very difficult phase that we must find a way of navigating.
What understanding do you want the people to show?
I have said this before, that if the cost price of 1 liter of fuel is 830, in the region of 830 naira, I don't see how any marketer will profitably engage in marketing refined petroleum products when the people would expect him or her to sell at 600. And I'm also saying that if you say, okay, federal government pay the 600, and I don't have a problem with that, because, like I said, it sounds very, very populist, because people would like to hear that kind of a thing. But realistically speaking, affordability, yes, on the one hand, would you have achieved availability? If you have to queue again after federal government has reversed it into 600 naira, so okay, they are doing this, but you don't find the refined products available. You don't find them in the filling station. Of what use is that again?
Part of why people refuse to say no, they will not show any understanding, is because, number one, these governments, they were all elected to make life better for the people, and they promised them heaven and earth, saying, yes, we will do it. So they cannot show any understanding until they do what they have promised the people. They were not elected to make life unbearable for the people. There's a raft of policies that have been ill-advised. So why should the people accept them?
I am on the side of people, like I said, because I am a co-casualty in this whole scenario. But I am saying that we also have to be reasonable about this. It's just like, okay, I will give you an instance. The labor leaders woke up one day and they said, okay, let us try and see how. Of course, there is need for us to increase the minimum wage of our workers. 70,000 naira, if you ask me, does not mean much, given the value of the naira as we speak today. But yes, that has been achieved. But how many states, as we speak now, how many states can pay the 70,000 naira? It's very easy to say, okay, agitate for all of this, but we need to be realistic, especially as regards implementation.
Speaking about being realistic, when government announced that subsidy was gone upon assumption of office, this government, can you tell us, do you know what they've done with the money, at least the subsidy removal, with the funds that they got from that? Any idea what they've done with it?
Well, I started by saying that if you work yourself into the oil industry, that the operations, they are very opaque. It's been very, very opaque for the people of Nigeria. They need to do a whole lot of surgery in the oil industry so that people can see through what is happening. Because we don't even know what is happening in the
So how will the people show understanding if they don't understand? If government has not been transparent to the people, how do they show understanding?
My point is this: you can't clap with one hand. If you're talking about government, you're talking about a contract between the people and the leaders. If you're talking about the people and the leaders, then you must jam these two hands to produce applause. Yes, government has to do a lot more. Like I said, we need a whole lot of transparency in the oil industry so that people can really see what is happening. At the moment, we don't have it. That's why I called for very extensive audit of the oil sector? Because I don't understand why NNPC will be telling me that over years now it's been running at a loss. Yes, that's on the side of the government.
Yeah, but
on the side
it is not the NNPC that will utilize the funds that they save from subsidy. It is the executive arm of government. They are the one that should be explaining to the people, you are now a subsidy remover. Where is the money? What have you been doing with the money?
Well, I don't know.
They should be the ones telling us.
I don't know how you can successfully separate the executive arm of government and that of the NNPC.
It's very simple. We didn't elect an NPC.
I
We elected the president.
I get where you're coming from, Mr. Akamadu. You're trying to make it look like, okay, well, people have their own role to play. I get that.
Oh, yes.
Listen, though. Here's what the issue is.
And they also have their rights, which they're exercising.
There's a contract. There's a contract we, the people, have with the government. And it doesn't seem like the government is keeping to their side of that contract. Apart from all of these opacity that you talked about, there's also the fact that there's lavish spending, incredible lavish spending on the part of government that the people just do not. It's mind-boggling to think about how much money has been spent on things. And we're wondering, how did any of this, what has this man's house got to do with national development? I mean, I'm referring to the vice president's house, the new house, and then renovating this one, then buying this, and then the lavish lifestyle. You cannot tell the Nigerian people to continue to understand at a time when they are looking at you spending lavishly and there's no transparency. But that aside, now that we are here...
But it's an important point you've just
Yes,
made.
I understand.
Like
you can speak on that when you start talking, but with that on one side, now let's look at where we are now. What should be happening right now? Because asking for transparency in NNPC and asking for explanations and whatnot, these things take time. What can be done right now for the Nigerian to feel like my country is not trying to kill me?
Well, I think, like I already had mentioned the issue of trust deficit, meaning that government has to do more. I also agree with you that government has not shown enough sensitivity. Put bluntly, government hasn't shown basic sensitivity to the people, which we've just buttressed now with their lavish spending and all of that. That's an area that government should really, really advert its mind to and make sure that it wins the trust of the people, because you can't be spending the way you're spending. And you can't be spending the way you're spending and then you expect the people to understand you. Of course, I know the bulk of this whole thing drops on the laps of the government, no doubt. But I'm saying for lasting solution, there has to be a conversation, there has to be a meeting point first between the people and the government. The government will have to, the people will have to do their wish list and say, this government, you must strike this out, government, you must do this and all that. When you do this and do that, they will then be willing. There would be a basis for all of us to now say, okay, we understand where you're going to.
We were listening to the president when he was talking to the Chinese community, just a few days ago. And one of the things that he said was, these are the hard decisions I was talking about. We'll get to the promised land. We'll reach El Dorado soon.
When? Did he say when?
No, he didn't say when. But he said, well, we are on the way to El Dorado.
We have to be alive.
So he said, these are the hard decisions. And the president famously has been quoted by many people as the man who took the decisions that many governments were afraid to take. They said, especially the Buhari administration,
which
they didn't want removal of fuel subsidy.
Did he remove subsidy?
No,
he didn't remove subsidy.
Understand what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
He announced that it has happened, right? He said it is not budgeted for.
Yes, he didn't.
We get that.
He didn't make provision for it.
Yes, we get that.
But it was supposed to be till May.
You understand?
June. Sorry,
but here's the thing.
He stopped it.
He decided to do other things. That's not the only policy. There were other things that happened afterwards. Floating the currency. So he said these are the hard decisions that we have to make right now. And the thing is, as a people, we're wondering, okay, so when are the benefits going to come out? Is it going to come out in 4 years? Is it 8 years? What happens to me in the meantime? That's where the questions are. That's why that badge of statesmanship is difficult for us to carry right now.
I understand. That was why I started by saying a hungry man is an angry man. Of course, I understand the mood of the people, and they have every reason to be in that particular mood. But if we go beyond emotions, if we go beyond sentiment, then we must get to a point where we find a common ground. Like I said, where the people will place demands on the government, because the people are the employers of those who are in the hands of authority as we speak now. They place demands on the government. Government, on its part, will have to pledge to honor all its commitment on that. Then the people, of course, will have to also understand that some of these things can't be automatic. I've just given an instance, like the minimum wage thing that we celebrated 70,000 naira. Who is paying? How many states are paying 70,000 naira minimum wage as we speak now?
Let's not forget.
So whilst we go for the ideal,
in fairness to the people, yes. I don't think they say they want automatic solution. Because just as a lot of people have also said, of course, people wanted the corruption in the subsidy regime to be gone. I don't think anybody opposed that. But what they're talking about is the raft of those policies. And besides, it's not, I don't think it's about hard decisions. It has been about the right decisions being taken. If you have a raft of those policies and decisions, and then look at what we're going through now, and then if you're a project manager, when you do your analysis, you have a timeline as to what you're doing, when the effects are going to come in. If it's a business, when you will break even. But in this case, do you have any idea? Or did they tell us when we begin to feel the impact? Does anybody know? It can't be indefinite.
If you ask me, what's really standing like a stumbling block in this whole scenario is the fact that the government disposition isn't helping matters. Government appears to be talking more than it's doing because the people are also watching. And the disposition of government does not encourage the people to give the government the buy-in that it requires. That's why I'm talking about the people being aware of the fact that these things might not happen overnight. That does not relieve government of its sacred obligation to meet the needs of the people. But the people shouldn't just be that wishful about all of these things. These things will have to go through a process, and if it goes through a process, I also agree with you, there should be a timeline. It shouldn't be left open-ended. Government cannot say, "Oh, things will get better. Things will get better." We have to choose a date or a period when we'll now look forward to and say, when we get to this point, we will now begin to move from relief to permanent cure, because we cannot possibly remain where we are at the moment.
Well, Akamadu is the president, Center for Ethical Rebirth Among Nigerian Youth. Sarani, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you so very much for having me.
All right, we're going to go over now to Lagos.